We're out here in Berks County today. Just on a little day off ride, first time in a while. It's officially spring, I'm loving it. The bike hasn't been getting enough love lately. So the temperature finally came up. We're sitting around 80 degrees today. I'm about 40 miles west of Philadelphia County, and I'm out for a little solo adventure. Fortunately for me, I get to ride my bike all winter, but unfortunately for me, it's only commuting. So this is kind of that first big spring ride that I'm taking. I've had a weird schedule lately. It's a Monday right now. I'm off work, so I'm out here solo because all my buddies are busy. But I love my solo rides, and a ride's a ride, so I'm not complaining. I'm just taking back roads, exploring new country lanes, scoping out places for me to take my friends in the future. And I want to kind of talk about something. So I have the Triumph Scrambler XC 1200. The Scrambler Triumph, or the Triumph is it's a 2021. The year that they made this bike, they had two offerings, the Scrambler XE and the Scrambler XC. The XE stands for Extreme Enduro. Sounds pretty gnarly, right? And the XC stands for Cross Country. I personally went for the XC because it's just a bit shorter. It had a different front suspension. This one has the Showa front suspension with about 8 inches of travel. The Scrambler XC has the Olin suspension with about 10 inches of travel, so it makes the bike a little bit taller up front and taller overall. And this year, Triumph announced they are no longer making my beloved XC. So they've replaced it with the Triumph Scrambler 1200X. I did a little research on this bike. I was intrigued, definitely intrigued, and I decided I would check it out. It is interesting. There's a few things about it that I want to talk about. It's beautiful out here. So the biggest thing that I think that they're trying to do, that Triumph is trying to do, is they're trying to separate the models. The XC and the XE were real similar. Like, I honestly was like, why buy the XE for X amount more dollars when it really just comes with heated grips and a different front suspension, and it's taller. It also had one more electronical features with this off-road pro mode, but I've went off-road with this bike like 3 times, so it wasn't really attracting me. I've accepted the fact that I'm much more of a street rider, and I even went as far as putting basically street tires on this bike. They're technically adventure tires. They're, 90-10%, something like that. 90% street, 10% off-road. But they're just they're a street tire, which I personally love because I turned this into my sport touring machine. I can really dip in the corners, enjoy the twisties. It's just, I'm so comfortable on this bike. So let's kind of talk about the differences between the XC and the X, because there's some good talking points here. I need to just start with the full transparency. The reason I want to kind of talk about this is because of the price of the X. The price of the X is about $14,200 retail for a brand new Triumph Scrambler 1200X. This bike retailed for a little bit more than that, but I bought this bike used and I paid $13,500 used. It also had some aftermarket parts, so I feel like I got a little extra value, but that's besides the point. The point is that I paid less than $14,000 for this bike 2 years ago. That being said, I feel like in present day, you should be able to pick this bike up for even less than $13,500. So I want to kind of talk about the differences between this bike and the X, and essentially the X's shortcomings, the way it was designed different, watered down, if you will. They changed some things to make it more budget, but in my opinion, it's not particularly that budget when it costs $14,000 and the Scrambler XE costs about $15,500, $16,000. So it's not a huge price gap, $2,000, it's relative. So there's like 5 main things that are different. The front suspension, the brakes, the electronics in the TFT dash, the suspension. Did I already say the suspension? I don't know, I'm already losing count. And the tires. Let's start with the tires. The tires I actually think are good. So my bike came with the Metzler Turrence Enduro Adventure style tires. I really, really didn't like them. They were kind of in between dirt and road, but not really good either one of them. So I went with more of a street biased Metzler Next 2 tire, and I absolutely love it. And it's like that, or I would have went more knobby and went straight up like the dirt direction. But the thing I've noticed about what Triumph is trying to do with this Scrambler X models, they're trying to make it more street biased, and in that part I think they did well. Another thing I think that's interesting about it is that they gave the bike less suspension travel. It's this new type of suspension. I don't know the brands, like Marizoni, something like that. Not familiar with the brand. That being said, what I do think is interesting is they lowered the whole bike 2 inches. So the seat height is a very approachable 32.3 inches tall. They also, on their website, the manufacturer website, had a low seat option as an upgrade, an add-on. That brought it down another 0.98 inches, almost a full inch. So now we're talking about 31.3 inches. That is not bad. I mean, a lot of bikes are in that, 31.3 inch category. So I feel pretty darn good about that. Let's get around this real quick. All right, back in clear. That's the one thing I think is really interesting about the Scrambler X, is they've made it for people who are a little shorter to be able to get on the bike and be comfortable with it. And also, let's not forget center of gravity. If it's down 2 inches, that's pretty cool too. Because I will tell you, it took me some time to get used to this bike. I'm very comfortable on it now. I was able to talk the Triumph mechanic into setting the suspension to my weight, and it has been night and day difference. Oh my god, my front end feels amazing. When I dip into corners, I feel like I'm on a sports bike. When I ride my CB1000R, I have similar confidence levels to when I ride this bike. And that's saying something, because the CB1000 is definitely a sports bike, and it's meant to be kind of thrown into corners and stuff like that. So being that I can do very similar things on the Scrambler and be comfortable with it is a huge perk. I love that. Ooh, it's windy out in this open field. So the one thing that's bad about the Scrambler X is that the front suspension not only is a different brand, but it's not adjustable. So hopefully it's like kind of, it's tuned to a way that people will enjoy. But if you get on the bike and you're not fond of the suspension setup, you're stuck with it. Like you can't go to a suspension specialist and get them to tweak it to your weight and set it up to your riding style. And to me, that's kind of that's a miss. But at the same time, I understand they were going for more budget. But let's circle back to the beginning. The bike cost $14,200. So it's not really budget. I mean, I bought this for $13,500. I know I'm revisiting the same information, but I really want to hammer the point home, because my conclusion here is that why don't we just go out and buy a used 2021, 2020, 2019 Scrambler 1200 XC? I mean, if I paid $13,500 2 years ago, and I only had 600 miles on the bike, and I got it from the dealer, so I paid basically kind of the top level, I don't see why you couldn't find it cheaper. And if you were seriously considering this new Scrambler 1200X, well, I would really argue that you should consider the used version of this bike. That being said, if you're shorter, 5'5", 5'4", the Scrambler X definitely is going to fit you much better. Like this bike right here, I have the preload all the way down right now at its lowest setting, and I'm still above 33 inches on the seat height. That's pretty high, like I'm 6 foot, I can flat foot it. I let my buddy ride a couple weeks ago, he was 5'10", he flat footed it. But I think any below that, you start to get on your tippy toes. My partner Jess is 5'3", and she cannot ride this bike. So that's kind of your threshold. Let's talk about the brakes though. So this bike has Brembo brakes front and back. The new Scrambler X has Nissan brakes front and back. I really don't care about Brembo brakes. I don't see the value in them. I have Nissan brakes on my CB1000R, and I absolutely love them. And they have rubber brake lines. The new Scrambler 1200X has steel braided brake lines with its Nissan calipers. It still has a dual floating disc up front, has a single disc in the back, and none of that concerns me one bit. I think that's perfectly acceptable. I think it's a great place to put a little budget part on. Nissan is not budget. It's middle of the road. I think it's a really good braking system. Nothing against Nissan. So in that category, in the brakes, I think that is perfectly fine. Shouldn't worry you one bit. The Brembo brakes are kind of annoying. They're squeaky. Yes, they're good. My back brake on this bike has amazing feel. It's the best back brake I've ever had on a motorcycle. But the front brakes are nothing special. They're just good dual disc brakes. Another thing we can talk about is the TFT. On the Scrambler 1200X, the new model, they have a semi-TFT dash with a LCD part. So it's like a circle. It's a little bit more simple, but I think there's still lots of functionality. And to be perfectly honest, I don't use electronics much. I put rain mode on when it's raining, and I use my cruise control like every once in a while. But the thing about cruise control is I have a one-button cruise control on this bike. That means that when I'm going 44 miles per hour, I hit it, I'm only going 44 miles per hour. I can't go up, I can't go down. I have to completely disengage the system by pulling in the clutch, hitting the brake, rolling back on the throttle. And if somebody in front of me is slowing down, speeding up, it's kind of annoying. I'm going on and off and on and off. Where like the Triumph Tiger line, they have ups and down arrows on the handlebar controls, and they can go up their speed a couple miles per hour, go down the speed a couple miles per hour. That's pretty handy. I like that. That's something I can really get behind. So cruise control is lacking on the new Scrambler X. They don't have it. They decided not to put it on the bike. And I could see how that would be a con, except for the fact that I don't really think the cruise control on this bike is all that spectacular. Like if you're going down a really empty highway with no traffic, sure, yeah, cruise control is great in that scenario. But when you're in Philadelphia and you're in all of this traffic and congestion all the time, you're never using it. So it's going back to kind of who I think Triumph has designed this bike for. I think they're going for somebody in the city who wants a bike that has pretty decent suspension. I'm guessing somewhere around 5 to 6 inches in suspension travel. I think that the lower seat height makes it a bit more manageable when you're in those low speed scenarios. And you know, you don't need the cruise control because you're honestly just not using it. It has street tires versus the Metzler Torrance tires that are like 50-50. And you don't really adjust your suspension much because you're not going off-road as much. You're not going soft to hard, back and forth, depending on your riding style. It's kind of like a one-trick pony in a way. The only thing that I'm really struggling with is it costs $14,200. That being said, same chassis, same engine, same beautiful gas tank, different paint schemes. It doesn't have the two-tone paint like this one does, but I believe it still has this nice like aluminum strap or brushed aluminum? Yeah, that's the word. Brushed aluminum kind of finish. So you're getting like, I would say 90% of what this bike is. And honestly, like, that's kind of the best part. Like, I don't think I use all of this bike's features, but I also just think that if you're gonna pay $14,200, buy this one used, right? Well, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that today. I'm out for a beautiful ride, wanted to do a moto vlog. It's been a while since I posted to the channel. You know, winter. It's April. We're finally back. Season 3 of my moto vlog coming at you. Wanted to start with a little bit about my favorite bike and its newest variant because this bike just got discontinued. I'm kind of sad that they dropped the XC because I thought it was brilliant, but I understand what Triumph is trying to do. I just really think they need to think about the pricing. I understand inflation. I get that it's not 2021 anymore like when I bought this bike, but if you're gonna water it down, I think there needs to be even more separation, specifically in the price. I think that $14,200 is a high ask. There's a lot of bikes you could buy in that price range. Like a lot of bikes. That's a great price. You can, the sky is your limit. If you're especially in the used market, I mean, you can get anything from a really nice Harley to a Ducati for that price. And not saying that I'm really into those bikes as much, but I do understand that they're pricey. So if you pick a 5-year-old Ducati up, I mean, your performance to price ratio is pretty great. And I'm not saying this guy doesn't have some performance, but it still is it's like a cruiser, you know? It's like a little bit sporty, a little bit off-road capable, but it really has the DNA of a cruiser. And honestly, that's what I like about this bike, because that's what I'm doing with it. I'm just cruising, hitting up my country roads, enjoying life to the fullest, stopping for the flagger on the side of the road. Can't complain. So what do you think? Buy a brand new model with less features, or buy a used model? I have 10,000 miles on this bike. I don't know how much I would sell it for, but I definitely wouldn't sell it for more than $13,000. I don't know. I love buying used models. You just have to vet them right. And if you buy them from a dealership, you're probably going to be okay. Well, this is where I'm going to end with you guys. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my ride solo. I'm going to sign off for now. But as always, ride safe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.